Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So we're going to talk to you about guitar values and what it really means, okay? Now, people think that the older the guitar is, the more it's worth. That's absolutely incorrect. Where a guitar becomes very valuable financially, it depends on the model of that particular brand, how many of them are readily available to pick up used, because we are talking used instruments when we're talking vintage stuff. Okay, so that's a big determining factor, and of course the condition of it and originality of that guitar. Now, frets are not something that you can really pick on for being original, because older guitars have been refretted at least once or twice, and that really doesn't devalue the guitar if it's been refretted recently. It actually helps the value of the guitar, providing the fretting job was done correctly and the fingerboard isn't shot to hell. Okay? So when you're looking at used vintage guitars, for example, the more original they are, the better the value is going to be. They're going to be worth more. Now, even though the guitar brand new may have sold for what, maybe $300 or $400 back in the day, and the determined value today could be thousands of dollars. Well, that depends on the condition of it. It depends on how original the equipment is too. You take something like my Affinity Squire Stratocaster back here. It's got 3 triple coil humbuckers. They're not original. The original was 3 single coils. The pot covers, the caps, they're not original. My switch is not original. In fact, it's actually a better switch. It's a Fender switch. It's a very high quality switch. Okay. And but everything else on that guitar, with the exception of the little cap that goes on the whammy bar, is actually original. So pickguard's original, the body, the neck, the tuners, the nut is also original. Okay, sometimes you may not get a guitar with an original nut. Somebody's changed the nut out at least once or twice, because it happens. They break over time and years of abuse and so on. And some people actually change them out for better quality nuts, which actually can help or take away. But usually, the more original the guitar is, the better it's going to be. And of course, playability. If it's got a lot of buzzing frets, it's not worth that much. Even if it has a nice fret job, but it's not even set up properly. It could just very well be that it's not set up right. It's going to be worth less if it's not set up right. If it's set up right and there's no problems with the guitar, it's worth more money the better condition it's in. Now, let's face it, over years of usage, you're going to be losing paint chips and that sort of thing, and that can not really affect the guitar too badly, but if it looks like it's been through hell and back, that doesn't mean it's worth a lot of money. Okay, just because it's been naturally reliced. One of the biggest things that's been going on in the last couple of years is people taking brand new guitars, or they'll pick up a guitar that's a year or two old, and they'll relic it. Okay, so make believe relicking, right? And they demand a high price for these guitars, and sometimes they do fetch a good buck, because people want that, And it's like, wow, that's such a good job. You did a great job relicking that thing. And I mean, hey, what's a little bit of sandpaper and a hammer and, a couple of nails to punch some holes and pop some chips out? You got a nicely reliced guitar, right? And it's like, man, that's just like, to me, it kind of turns my stomach a little bit that people would do that to, take a newer guitar and fake relic it, But whatever. Now, I have a different belief system than most. I think that, in my opinion, a guitar is worth as much as you're willing to pay for it or you're willing to sell it for. So when somebody's buying one of your used guitars, if you're willing to take the hit, okay, let's say you're asking $500 and somebody says, "Oh, I'll give you $200 for it." Well, you're the one who has to decide if you're going to take the money or not. Okay, but the guitar is probably not even worth $500. It's probably only worth what the guy's offering you, or it might be worth $400, but the guy's offering you $2, and if you decide to take it, he got a steal, and you took a big loss. So you have to know your own guitars too. You have to know the year of your guitar, the model of that guitar. Like you could have 2 models come out in the same year from Fender or Gibson or LTD or Sector or whoever, okay? And the one model is going to be worth more than the other because popularity. It was popular, but there's not very many of them. The less that are available, it drives the price up. Okay, so age, availability, condition, these are all, originality, it's all factors, okay, in what a guitar is worth. Now I'm looking right now, and have been for about 2 years, at a made in Mexico Strat. Now I'm not a real diehard Strat geek, okay, or fanboy, or whatever you want to call the person that loves Strats. Okay, I think they're a cool guitar, and they have their place in the music world for different genres of music. Okay, and I have a Strat, okay, and I don't like the pickups that came with mine, so I changed it to 3 humbucker dual rails. But I'm going to get another one, and I'm going to keep it as a Strat with 3 single coils, but I'm going to put better quality pickups in it, better quality pots, and of course put the Fender switch in it like I did my Strat that I have now. And I will have a really awesome playing instrument, because the Affinity Stratocasters are like $300 tax in Canadian dollars, okay? So a little bit less for you guys in the States. So they are a guitar that you can gig live with. You can play live with it. You can play in the studio with it if it's set up right, and if it's got some decent pickups and stuff in it. You can actually play professionally with it, because it does have medium fat jumbo frets, which also means they're going to be durable frets for quite a while. But you do need to set that guitar up out of the box. Same as the Tele, it has to be set up out of the box. The Affinity Tele has the same issues as the Strat, and that's a couple of frets will buzz. And all you got to do is adjust the neck, adjust your string height, reset your intonation, and the thing is like perfect. It's buzz free, and it's still got a sick low action on it, which is nice, especially if you like to do string bending. And the Tele, surprisingly enough, at first I was thinking, I'm going to change these pickups. They just don't. But they're vintage style pickups. They went after the vintage Tele sound with these pickups. So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to leave that alone. And I'm starting to grow accustomed to it now that I've been dialing in different things with the Tele, and it's like I'm kind of really liking the sound. So the pickups can stay, but the switch has to go. And of course, I am switching the hardware all over to probably gold or some antique-y looking equipment. I found some really nice places online to shop for left-handed guitar parts for the Teles and the Strats. And I'm thinking, there's some nice little choices out there. I might have to even buy a second Tele. You never know. And I'll change it too for the color. Anyway, so the value does boil down to, in the end, what are you willing to sell your guitar for to get some money, and what are you willing to pay for a guitar to have that guitar? Okay, that's where it pretty much boils down to. Now this one I'm looking at, the Made in Mexican Strat, I probably will leave the pickups alone and stuff, but the neck has to be refretted, and I'm going to clean it up, and make it look pretty, but I like the color of the body, and it's got a little bit of wear on it, which is cool. I'm fine with that. And because I know I'm also buying a used guitar that I want, and I can't say that I can't afford a Made in Mexico. I can afford any guitar I want if I'm willing to save the money for it. That's the thing. We all can. It doesn't matter how broke you are. A guy actually told me this a couple weeks ago when I was in Music City. He says, why do you keep buying cheap guitars when you can afford that $2,000 guitar or $3,000 guitar? I says, I can't. He says, that's your wrong thinking. You can. You just really don't want to bad enough. And I thought about it, and it's like, well, yeah, I could save my money for a few months. Exactly. So if you really want that $2,000 or $4,000 guitar, save your money for it, and then you'll get it. Just means you gotta wait. Well, at the time, of course, when I started buying guitars again, I really couldn't wait. So, I needed something. I needed it now. I was doing okay with my Fender acoustic, but I still didn't have the sound I'm after, and I really want a specific sound. And it was between the Takamine and a Martin, and the Martin was $2,500, but $1,400 down before they'll even build it, and grand total time, and that was giving me a layaway with that too, would have been about 7 months. And it's like, oh, I can afford to do it, but I still got to figure out how to get the $1,400 down. So now we're talking over 2 years now before I'll be able to do it. And it's like, I need something now. And so with enough research and homework, something you'll learn in life if you learn to do this, and that's to do your research and homework. You can find guitars that will have that sound you're after, and you don't have to have a Martin name tag on it. I bought the Takamine. I paid $644 cash for it. I worked my ass off, got the money, one shot, poof, here you go. And so anyway, the Tak is far superior sounding over the Martin that I was looking at that was $2,500. And I didn't have to wait for it to be built. I just had to, order it and wait 2 weeks for it to come in. Actually, it took less than 2 weeks. But I got the sound I was after. I got a quality built instrument and an awesome sounding instrument. In fact, it's loud enough that I don't even have to plug it into my mixing board, because when I'm doing my live stuff in the studio here, I've got a studio mic, and it picks up everything surrounding, right? And now that I have two matched Fender Mustang 1V2 amps to go on my mixing board, my sound is now completely balanced. So by the time I dial in my vocals, I have my acoustic unplugged, my Takamine. The mix is perfect. It's a perfect mix. And I'm like, sweet. So it's kind of nice. It's a loud guitar. Now, if I take my Fender and I try and pull that off, ain't going to happen. The Fender is just not got the right tonal range. It is not as loud of a guitar, as the Takamine is. And yes, it is pronounced actually Takamine, even though it's spelled Takamine, it's pronounced Takamine. But anyway, so here we are in this situation, and we're looking and thinking, all right, I got the best of all worlds, and it didn't cost me $2,500. So you can spend less and get more. And the Takamines are really good quality built instruments. I mean, even the weight difference between it and my Fender acoustic, it's just amazing. It's a much heavier instrument, but it's also better quality woods, heavier woods, of course, better quality guitar all the way around, period, And for those of you who have not seen it yet, it's the cutaway one. But anyway, so acoustics, electrics, doesn't matter. It's worth as much as you're willing to sell it for. It's worth as much as you're willing to pay for it. However, keep in mind that condition does mean everything. So does availability on a worldwide scale. How many of them are. The more there is of that model, the less it's worth. So some guy says, well, right now the going rate on a 1962 Fender Stratocaster standard USA model is about $18,000. In good condition, in mint condition, it's worth about $32,000. I mean, I'm just throwing bullshit numbers out at you, but you get the idea. I would be questioning how many of them are available worldwide, because if there's more than 20 of them, well, it ain't worth that much money. It's more like worth about $2,000, realistically, because the more that are out there that you can get your hands on, and if they're in better shape, okay, well then they're worth more than what the guy wants. And see, that's what you got to also get people to understand too. The more that are available, the less it's worth. And only certain model years of any Fender, any Gibson, Takamine, Schecter, Cort, PSR, I don't care what the name is, LTD, okay? Doesn't matter what the brand name is, only specific models, even in that decade era are going to be worth X amount of dollars, and that's it, and and the same guitar company with just a slightly different version of that guitar, okay, is going to be worth next to nothing. It could be 75 years old, it could be 100 years old, it could be in mint condition, be 100 years old, and it's worth like $50 because there's too many of them out there and nobody wants it, okay? Or there's not very many, but nobody wants it. Nobody's after that guitar, right? So it's not worth anything, and this is how it works. And that's the reality of it, so you got to really consider these things, okay? I mean, I look at this Made in Mexico guitar. Originally they wanted $400. It's been 2 years. It's sitting on the shelf still. Now it's down to 250. I'm going to let it sit longer because it needs the entire neck refretted. It needs a little bit of TLC on the electronics. I know that. It's going to need it, you know, and I'm going to have to put out money. So, you know, by the time I'm done, you know, and I have that neck refretted, you know, there's $240, $250 to refret the neck because I want to keep the original neck because it is an older one. Okay, and that's the thing. You don't always just buy a brand new neck and throw it on an old body. You know, you want to keep the value up in future. You got to have original. You know, but the frets are shot. It has to be refretted. But you know, I've got that. The price of the guitar. By the time I'm done, I'll probably have about $700 into it, $600-700. But it's going to be a far better than probably one of the newer made in Mexico ones. You know, that's the thing. That's what I'm looking at. You know, so why should I spend the same amount of money and get lesser of a guitar when I can spend, you know, the same amount of money and get more of a guitar in the end, you know, and I get the older pickups, you know, not the new pickups, which may not sound the way I want them to, you know, and I'd rather have the other ones, and they're still in there, so, you know, that's the thing. You got to consider these options, right? But that's the way it goes, and that's what you got to look at too. Anyways, so that covers our, you know, what's your guitar worth video, and thanks for watching, and hey, we'll catch you on the next one.